welcome to the Learning Pro Live. And we have got the LX Collective here right now. Hi, everybody. And we are Troy Ashman, Amanda Nguyen, Emma Pawson, and Lin Wong. And so excited to have our second episode with you guys. This is just a casual conversation, right? Hey, guys, we're going to talk about how we go about re-engineering design that inspire us. Otherwise known as how do we steal like an artist? You know, how do we steal ideas from other people and make them our own? We were just having a chat about this just before, weren't we, Troy? And Troy was saying there's no original ideas, so anyway, it's all good. Guys, why don't you
sorry. Someone was knocking at the door, so I was pointing to my husband to go open the door.
I was actually about to say, is somebody cooking in the background? I feel like I was hearing some stuff.
It's all good. You're going to see random animals, no babies crying, but, probably partners crying at some point. So anyway, guys, we have got Tom, who is like, Tom McDowell is always here, right? How you doing, Tom? Love you, brother. This will be a lovely accompaniment to some early morning SCORM troubleshooting. Well, I have to say to you, Tom, we are already on the drink, right? All of us. Come on, guys, let's give Tom a cheers.
Yeah.
And we're already. It's our evening. We've finished work. You're just starting your day, but we're just going to have a pretty chill conversation. If you've got anything that you'd like to contribute or
I'm so sorry, guys. I want to close the door. I'm so sorry.
Okay. If you've got anything, Tom, you want to contribute, let us know. Even if you want to jump on the call, I'll send you a link and you can jump on if you want. We'd love to have you join us as well. So, guys, who should start? Well, do you know what? Let's start with Troy because he just released a brilliant tutorial. Tell us about it, Troy.
Yeah, so I just launched a new tutorial on how you can create a custom cursor in Articulate Storyline and Articulate Rise. That kind of came about through some conversations with the team on the call, but also some further exploration I've been doing. I've noticed, over the years, web designers are creating custom cursors on their websites. And I just really wanted to find a way how I could do that in a storyline project or a Rise course. So Cath helped out with a link through to the Articulate forum. And then I kind of extended upon that and did some investigation surrounding the code and, what CSS or JavaScript is needed, but how to do it in a relatively quick way, so that we're not sitting there project by project coding for hours, because that's not our jobs. That we're not getting paid to kind of code from scratch. So how could I, I guess, kind of steal like a pro and implement a custom cursor into a project that really gave the projects, or will give the projects, a little bit more of a polished, unique feel to it.
So your inspiration, it was a hotel website.
Yes.
Where did you find that? Where did you find the link?
Yeah, so I found I was kind of, going through Dribble and Behance just for some design inspiration, actually. And I came across this really cool project that somebody did about redesigning the brand for a hotel chain. And I noticed throughout the project that they put together, there was this really cool kind of circle cursor that that had coded into the design, and then that really kind of kicked off the the curiosity as to, can this be done in Storyline? How could it be done? And then what it would look like. So I spent some time trying to manipulate some code. There were a lot of broken codes that I gave up on in frustration. But then I came across somebody on YouTube that actually made a video on how to create a custom cursor in 2 minutes, pretty much exactly what I've just done. But theirs is more from a web design point of view. And so I started playing around in Storyline and seeing, can that be used in Storyline? And bingo, it worked. So happy days.
So there's something that must go through your mind that makes you go, that's cool. I think that would put a bit of polish, a little bit of bling onto, you were just making a little mock-up. It wasn't a project for a client. It was just, and I think that's certainly the way that I work. I look at things and I go, that's really cool. Like, that just adds an element of polish. And I think, if anything, for us to be able to deliver higher end, products, to be able to do things like that, it makes people go, that isn't Storyline. What is that? That's a custom, the example that you showed, Troy. Do you want to share your screen? Do you want to show it? It's up to you if you want to show it. I think if we can share more visual things, the more the better,
Sure. Give me 1 second.
Look at Emma's cheeky face. You drunk already, Emma? What are you doing?
I had to mute my mic because my dog was going mental outside. Text my husband like, hey, we're live. Shut the dog up, please.
Oh, good.
Your inspiration thing in the chat, Troy, if you wanted to have a look at that. Awesome. The one that you sent originally, a screenshot of what you did. But it was really cool. And good for you for persevering. God, I would have given up.
I think so. Absolutely. I mean, for you guys who are tuning in, we're talking about how we go about re-engineering designs. If we see something that's really cool, what's our process to work out? How do we recreate that? How can we kind of, where do we go looking for stuff? And what's our actual process for implementing it? And this was Troy's that I thought was great. So what did you like about the actual pointer, Troy?
Yeah, I just think I don't know if you can see my screen, sorry, but I just like the polished feel of, I guess what you're saying, it gives it that kind of unique feel that, every website or every computer we use, they all have a default cursor. And I just think it's those small little elements, such as, a custom cursor, that can really change the experience, whether it's an e-learning course or a website. Beyond that, I'm now trying to work out other elements of this design. So, how they've done the animations and the transitions, and if I can replicate something like that in Storyline. And I just love like the blurred effects when you hover over a set menu item. I just thought the whole thing was really cool, really polished, and makes it feel a little bit more high end, and that it's not just another kind of e-learning course.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the tutorial that you shared just earlier today was great. That you actually went into the back end, you showed everyone how you can use scripts, because I've actually started seeing a few people sharing things on Storyline. There was a tilt JavaScript that someone did that was really cool as well. And I was like, I don't know how to implement that. It's a bit too beyond me without kind of really digging into it and doing a tutorial. So it was great to see that, because it made me go, oh, well, there are all these JavaScript what did you call them? Not collectives, but JavaScript used
Stories.
to
There's JavaScript libraries out there
libraries.
on GitHub, and there's like a whole range of different other platforms and repositories out there. But I guess
backpack one, Cath, you're talking about? Sorry, the backpack one, the with the tilt.
Yeah, maybe it was. Yeah, there was a nice example that was shared. Do you know where it is? Do you want to see if you can find it?
Well, I'll try. You carry on talking, Troy, and I'll see if I can find it.
Yeah, but
sorry.
Yeah, it was libraries, Troy. Keep going. Keep telling us about it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, I think if anything, just trying to spark that curiosity in us as designers and developers, and get curious. I know time is always, having that luxury of time to kind of dabble and play around with different things is a luxury. But I would highly recommend that if you can find the time to just get creative and play and try different things. And what's the worst that's going to happen is you're just going to pretty much break the code and you just re-export and you start again.
That's right. That's right. I mean, I may not be so deep into code as you, Troy, but I'll take inspiration. So I'll give you an example. I'm doing a little project right now, and it's on COVID-19, and it's for firefighters. Okay, and they're wanting to demonstrate best practice. Wearing the nylon gloves and a mask. And the thing is, there's no pictures out there of that. So, I took a couple of pictures of the firefighters. Let's see if I can find it actually, and I'll share it so you can see. And I'm just using this as an example. Let me share my screen. And I also had an image that I downloaded as well. Okay, so I wanted to, let me share my screen. So this is just another example, right? So this is a firefighter. These are their new helmets, okay? And this is their gear. So I wanted to make a bit of a library of characters that I can use within the course that have this new equipment, so it somewhat future-proofs it, okay? So my interpretation of that, it's nothing groundbreaking, but this is
that's cool.
This was my interpretation of it, right? So this is me trying to, if I bring this little doodah in, and this again is just re-engineering my interpretation, So that's it. I've got that as the traditional helmet, and it's the mask.
Very
not perfect,
cool.
but it's getting close. Not close to perfect. That makes me sound like a wanker, but so using elements that you can get to utilize to try and recreate stuff like this, right? And a lot of this is kind of tracing, and even the session that I did on the little Chrome extensions, being able to use that Chrome extension and just to find what colors they are and try and match them. And yeah, so I think that just from our conversation before, people think that they don't, I don't do any re-engineering. We do it, but we don't consciously do it. And those were your words, Troy, So that's my interpretation of taking ideas and adding value to it. There's not a lot of things that I put out there that are just from a stock site. I do change them. I remove items. I make them more customized, and we all do that, So That's just a little example of kind of little things that I do. Tom, if you're still listening, what do you do? And those of you who are tuned in, because we've got quite a few viewers, let us know where you're tuning in from, and does this interest you? Do you do this kind of stuff? You know, if not, what do you do? Miss Amanda, congratulations! You tied the knot.
I did. I'm officially married, guys. Yeah. Thank you. I've been calling my husband illegally my husband for the past 2 years, so now we're legal. Yeah.
Now he's the hubby.
Yeah. No, I loved Troy's tutorial. It's something that I'll probably play around with and experiment with. And even for me, before I start a project, I like to just get all the inspiration that I can and play around with different things before I figure out visually what I want to create for my project. I don't have any samples, but I will share all of my go-to inspiration places to draw out what I want to do. Are you guys ready for my messy tabs?
Do it.
So we can
All right.
Inception.
Going to illusion. Oh,
Yes, Inception. My Inception. Give me.
No, I've
1
learned
second.
to control that better now. So
Can you see my screen?
it's loading up
Now?
All right.
Now,
Here we go.
Inception. Oh. Okay.
You did it.
I did
Oh my
it. I did it.
Amanda, how many tabs have you got open?
I'm excited. I did like pre-work, like maybe 5 minutes before our session. All right. So my first one, I love hopping onto UI websites and blogs to draw some navigational or just visual placement on different things for, I don't know, inspiration for my storyline projects. So collectui.com has amazing such a range of different ways that we can mock up a landing page through to buttons, tooltips, forms. There's just so many things that you can extract and cherry pick is something that I like. I tend to then screenshot it and place it onto like a mood board, or I dump it all into Illustrator as screenshots and just organize what I'd like to pick from each thing. Another site that I love is UI Movement. And I love it because there's micro animations on there, so you can visually see what each thing looks like. Troy, I think you'll like this because there's lots of mini transitions and hover effects that we can try and experiment with. Well, I'll get you to experiment it and then you can show me in Storyline, because you're an absolute wizard and genius in that sense. But again, I love to spend like hours on these sites just to draw up my inspiration before I go into like mock-up phase, if that makes sense, into Illustrator or After Effects or whatever tool I'm using.
So some of these micro interactions you were showing us, do you ever, like, for example, that one there, the cargo logistics site that's up at the top in the middle?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's your process if you like something like that? Do you try and recreate things? I mean, I certainly do, just for fun, try and recreate different interactions.
Yeah. So for me, I like to just dissect the animations, only because I know there are limitations to Storyline. I think the pre-built animations aren't as fluid as I like it to be. So for example, here, what I could see that I can create was the dark navy swipe down, and maybe splitting my screen into 3 pillars and just having a clean fade in hover for each of the panels with the words, playing with the states of the button. That's how I would probably mimic. It would be a bit rigid in terms of the micro animations, but I think you'll be adding a nice level of uniqueness to the landing page in the Storyline project, I think. What about you guys? What would you do if you had this little mock-up cargo logistics site here to play around with?
I think that, I mean, it's interesting to hear that. I think that, okay, maybe not like sharing what I think I would do, but I'm curious, like in that kind of a space where you guys already seen the inspiration and go about trying it. For me, I'm always stuck before even trying it. Like I'm thinking, okay, what kind of content should I put? Like I'm curious, like what do you guys do? Like, do you just like kind of go, okay, I'm just gonna try the animation. I don't care what kind of content there is. Just kind of see the technicality of it, or.
So
like,
I'm a messy designer, or efficient. I'll say efficient. Messy sounds a bit horrible for any potential clients that are listening to me. But I like to visually see what the project could potentially look like, and I think it's also nice to show people right at the beginning what it could may or potentially look like. I usually do like 2 or 3 different mock-ups and styles, so they can see where my vision is, and hopefully that's aligned to theirs. And then in parallel, I'll be working with them to look at the content and seeing how we can map that out to help structure what the prototype could potentially look like. Yeah, that's my message.
And I'm a bit more boring, where I actually don't focus on the content. I will actually even screen capture images that are there, and I'll just put those in, So I just I want to just work out the flow. It's like, can I do it? And then I think about how I can rework it in my own way. So it's really interesting the ways that we all work. And we've got a couple of people here. We've got Casper and we've got John, and they said good day, and we want to hear from you guys as well. What do you guys do? What's your workflow? We all have different ways of doing this. Hey, keep going, Amanda.
No worries. I was just looking at bookmarks and I'm like, adventures, gaming, shopping, food, design. I'm a weird person. The next one is sightsee.co. I actually use this to give inspiration for my portfolio, so my own personal website. I love looking at other people's portfolios and websites. And also it's quite relevant in storyline projects too, because of the layout, the navigational bar, the menu and its positioning, and mini hover effects. So this is a great way to just have a play around and have a look at what, color combinations that they use, topography like hourly, like here, this one here.
I like that, the hourly.
Yeah, so, the way that they use their font, or even here, splitting their screen in half with one side with text and one side with a carousel kind of image. Like I would draw inspiration from this and see, maybe some of the content that I might have in my project, I could split it this way.
Yeah.
So UpLab is another site that I like as well. Again, it's just resources and templates of things that you can cherry pick and buy or get for free. But why I had this open was I was looking at the just the image, the curved edges. So I personally, this is for me in my eye, but I like to dissect a visual. Like for example, here placing an icon or an illustration offset to the corner outside of the main frame, the textures of the gradient in the illustrations, the white text over the illustrations, little things like that. To me, I just love looking at it and recreating that in Illustrator. So if I did go down the route of looking at, maybe this will be a nice next storyline project, I would quickly hop into Illustrator and screenshot this, put it to the side of my artboard, and I would draw the box out. I would grab some illustrations and maybe add in some textures and just play around to see what it could look like. That's how I would approach this one.
Do you typically, Amanda, have several design inspiration, like images in this, like few images in the same style as an inspiration, or like one?
Yeah, so I would cluster. Because most of the time I don't just go to one image that I'm inspired by. I'll probably extract a couple of images and collections, and I'll maybe just circle or highlight the certain areas of that illustration or visual that I'd like to incorporate in my project. And it's a great way for me to just holistically see, okay, maybe I like that offset icon to the corner, or I like that font combination in this image that I've just screenshotted.
Yeah.
So I like to do a mixture of things. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm the same too. Like I would choose like inspirations that are like similar, and then combine together, and then kind of pick like a part. Like, okay, I like that part. I like that part. I like the layout there, the font there, the coloring.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm sorry guys. I have like so many things, but here's another site.
No, this is great.
pttrns.com, bookmark it. Oh, this is probably more scoped into, quizzes. So I use this for like quizzes, the way that I lay it out with, see the circle outline, and then when someone hovers it or clicks into it, it's filled in with a nice tick or cross out. It's just, again, inspiration on how I would lay out some quizzes or text and positioning. This is a really cool site. And on the side here, there's categories as well. Check-in, for example. Again, drawing inspiration from apps and the way that they develop things. Oh no, this is a really crap page. That looks boring. Wait, 1 second. Back to main page. Main page is always better because it's more dated. I know Cath loves this one, Muesli. Muesli is a nice little read sometimes for me if I'm on the train. Well, back then, 6 months ago before COVID, on the train, or on my phone, and I like to just skim through Medium in my feed. Another one is uxdesign.cc. Sometimes I don't read the articles, but I look at the images. Just because they have some really cool images and animations on there. But if the content is relevant to what I'm doing, then I do click into it. But this is a nice read for anyone who's passionate or interested within the UX design process. There's some really good reads in here. XD Ideas is another one. Funnily enough, I don't use XD. I will be using it, guys. I promise. I will try. I know my LX collective crew, they love XD, but I love the blogs and the articles. I think they're pretty cool. Yep. So again, some great reads here. Yep. And then my final spot for inspiration is Instagram. Oh my God. A mixture of artists that I follow. Sometimes I get my pen and paper out and I just try to, draw like different sections of visuals and illustrations to see what it could look like, playing around with some colors. So I do love Grembren. I love her work. It's phenomenal. So have a check out. If you are passionate about the Adobe Creative Cloud Suite and you want to use some tools, there's some mini tutorials here that Elena creates. So for example, how to use the wave effect in After Effects.
Ooh.
And it takes you through the whole process on how to create this little ghost wave, which is pretty awesome. Like, I think it's fun to spend maybe 10 minutes a day on personal development, cute icon animations, or there's some really cool Illustrator ones that I've done before as well. But this is follow L_LELEKA. Really cool. So I love micro influencers on Instagram. I find their content more robust. Personally. Sebastian, he's another illustrator and animator that I follow. I just love dissecting, the different styles and textures, the color combinations, dark with, like a mauve outline, which is very clever, and a bit of texture here. So this is, again, for me to just look at, get some inspiration, dissect, the animation. So for example, if I were to recreate this, I would probably break it into quadrants. The first one, I'll look at the flower, how it's spinning, and then I'll animate the shoes and the shoelaces. I'll do the easy animations first when I dissect it, and then I'll leave the hard ones to the end. Yeah, so follow this dude. Cool. Again, another illustrator that I love. I just love the aesthetics of the colors and how she zooms in on the different areas. So for me, it's, playing around with block colors in the background and having a saturated darker color to just draw emphasis on the main illustration. Little things like that I love. Like, I'm loving that blob in the background. So this is Megan Pelto. So give her a follow. Oh, ooh, I like this guy too, Andre. So Andre's awesome because he shows before and after. And this is what I absolutely love. I love seeing their original sketches and their concepts and ideas and how they bring that to life through just colors, textures, the line. I think
even his sketches already kind of look like done.
Mine will probably look like just a blob or a circle, but like this is just so clever. Yeah. And he does that with a lot of his stuff. So I think this is a nice way to just see other people's development process. So I would highly recommend following designers or, people out there who show you their development process, because it's a great way for you to just tweak that so that if it suits you or not. Another one, look, again, I would usually draw inspiration from a lot of mini motion graphic images and just dissect. Again, I'll split this into like 4 sections. I'll look at how I can recreate the clouds moving left to right. I'll then isolate and do the trees moving left to right. I'll probably keep the girl last and that paper plane because that looked a bit complex, or even this time thingo. But again,
what is it called? Hourglass?
Hourglass. Yeah, girl, that's it. Hourglass or time thingo. Do not quote me, guys. Apologies. But just dissect your inspiration into different quadrants and just play around with how you can just create that moving tree to, show a sense of progress as you're trying to recreate this whole thing. So give Dal Masso a follow. Really love his work. Pretty cool. Again, another motion graphics dude, Nazari. I'm a sucker for illustrations and flat illustrations specifically, and motion graphics and that. Again, just I love artists who go through pen and paper just to see how they bring their concepts and designs to life. I love 3D art as well, and that's something that I play around with in Blender. But, like for me, this would be a great cover page or a nice guide, a user guide, using different shapes, and see how the text is just aligned to the left with a big visual and illustration on the right-hand side. You can play around with the font, the placement, and the colors in creating a beautiful guide. I don't know, that's what I would use it for. Yeah. Last one, I promise.
No, this is great, Amanda.
No, we want to know more, Amanda.
Oh man, I just go into my Instagram and look at the people that I follow. Like, I just follow a collection of fun, awesome, random people. But I love Bulmer's work. Again, it's just the shapes. They're just clean, simple shapes that you can recreate, in Illustrator, or if you use any other tools, even free web-based apps as well. Like a simple rectangle, and you can skew it down to and add some rectangles and triangles around it to just create a visual. I really love Bulmer's style, bright colored backgrounds. I think a lot of my work personally, I love to use bold colors. And I love using colors to illustrate skin color that are not your normal skin color types, again, for inclusion and diversity purposes. But I think it's such a clever way to, again, peach tones are one of my favorite, loving, the warm colors. So I do draw a lot of inspiration on colors, if anything. And light colored backgrounds. So, for example, if you have a Beyond project, or I don't know, an Illustrator project, and you don't want to use white colored backgrounds, you can go on here and just check out the different background tones that they use. Like for here, a combination of like a warm dusty pink to a really, really light pale pink would just make your centered illustration pop out a bit. Yeah. So for me, that's why I love Instagram. I'm on it way too much, I think. It's probably not healthy, but yeah, that's it.
Well, Razor asked if we would be sharing the links. I'll list all of these in the footnotes after the session. So
perfect. I won't close my tabs, I promise. Yes. I won't close this. And then I'll bring it back. Oh, Inception. Stop.
I think we need to explain though, Amanda, and what I think this would be another session that I think would be great for you is I'd love to do a kind of Adobe. I'd kind of love to do a like an Adobe session, but not for Adobe for learning, but we can build live, you know. So I'd love to kind of even get Troy to do a live build and go, well, this is a blank piece of paper and I'm going to make it into this, and to show that it really doesn't take long once you've conceptualized your idea. But you are in a space that I'm kind of in as well, but I'm not very good at it. You're good at it. And that's Procreate. And that's we should explain that it's an app, first of all.
Yeah.
Procreate is a fantastic app on the iPad. It does cost money, but it's not very much, and the updates are just phenomenal.
$14.95.
Yeah, it's the best money you can spend. And I'm really down a rabbit hole right now with Procreate. Gal Shirt, do you know Gal Shirt?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Fine too. Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah.
So those of you
to buy that, yeah, it's the characters where you can move and adjust their arm and add and paint your stuff over it, right?
Yeah, well, he's actually got tons and tons of tutorials that really made me kind of go down this whole rabbit hole.
Oh my god, it's a unicorn!
Where's the unicorn?
Oh, up. There it is! Sure, unicorn, Procreate. I'm totally gonna do that now after this session.
But what's really lovely about his work is he's exactly the same. I'm just going to turn the music down in case I get some kind of copyright strike. But he's exactly the same, where he'll start off with a blank page and go through the whole process, and you can learn so much, even just by sitting and looking at what settings he's got, right? And a lot of the time you can just follow him looking at what pens he's choosing. And these are things, and this is exactly what this is, re-engineering things that we like. We learn from other people, you know. So he's someone that got me down the Procreate side. And Ben Marriott, do you know Ben Marriott? He's from Sydney.
Yes. Oh my gosh, he's incredible. His work is insane. All of his animations, yeah. Love it.
I tried to get Ben on the learning conference. And he's like, oh, I'm a bit busy, you know. But you know, he is just absolutely amazing, especially his texture work. Yeah. And I'm not just talking about texture work like what we can do in Procreate, but actually animated texture work. Like, so cool. This shit was just off the hook, you know. Let me again just show you. So this is what he was.
Oh my god, that's insane!
Oh, wow, that's cool,
right? And that's what he was trying to create, and he's just so talented. But this leads a nice little segue to a question that Mark has asked, and he says, "I love the focus on design. It's my passion too. I'm curious to know everyone's experience with sharing these inspirations with clients, where their focus may be more on content and not design based. Where does the ID role separate from a UX or graphic design role?" I think this is quite an interesting question, because all of us are very, very focused on design. We are on content too, but I feel myself, Mark, that I struggle less when I've got a good concept of what the design is. If someone's like, oh no, it just needs to be text and I don't need a lot of design, oh my God, it's like I would reject work like that doesn't want any kind of focus, because I don't believe that we're just delivering content. If we're going to call ourselves learning experience designers, designing an experience for people, and the design has to be something that is well thought out. You know, it has to be a huge part of the process. And I'd love your thoughts on this too, Mark. I mean, I don't have any issues with clients that I don't charge them any more, any less. I actually find that it comes to me a lot easier if I've got a great design concept. So I find it really hard to create with nothing, you know. So for me, it's easy. I don't charge them any more or any less. Something that's great design. What about you guys? Like,
The other thing I would add there is like to just keep the time that you discuss that thing as two separate entities. So you'll have a chat with them about the design, maybe going through the visual aspect of the mood board if that's something that you do. But make it clear that when you are presenting that item to them, that's what you're talking about at that point. You're talking about the visual. And I've just had a conversation with a client this week about the content. So when I presented the first draft of the module, they'd already seen the mood board, so they had that in their mind, but that wasn't the focus of that first review. And just reiterating that your first draft review is about your content, and then the visual design will be incorporated in the second review. And that's how I manage it. It's more about managing the conversation, the client's expectations. And I do like to keep the design elements out of the first draft, purely because the amount of changes that come back to content can blow out if you don't manage that. And because everyone puts visual design at the forefront of their minds, because it is so prominent in everything that we do in life, they will hone in more on the visuals than the content. I find that will take away from what you're trying to get reviewed. And then, you know, final draft, they're spotting spelling errors or, you know, typos or whatever, and you're like, oh, I wish I'd kind of managed that. And I think it's more just managing clients' expectations and different review phases. I don't think it has to be one or the other.
But we all do things different, don't we? You know, and there's no right and wrong with this. I mean, personally, I talk about straight off the bat, I talk about what the experience, what the story is, like what are we trying to, what's the big picture of this? And I actually, at a very early stage, and I've shocked a few people because I do a lot of mocking up very, very early so that I can take that client on the journey right from the beginning. And I actually feel like it helps me create the experience if I don't think about the design. And, you know, there's conversations out there that I don't 100% agree with. Emma's laughing, you know, but should we have anything to do with the design? Do you know what? There's going to be there's going to be times where you're going to work and there will be a designer. So I might have an agency contact me, and this is happening more and more, where they're going, we actually don't want an e-learning company. There's a huge bank in Australia who actually don't do any of the build. They don't do any design. They go out to a big agency, get them to do all the design. Like they go to a graphic design agency, and then they'll come to someone like me and go, radio, we now want you to build it. So we got all the assets that we've worked with a graphic design company, but we haven't got a clue how to build it. So this is where you come in. So we need you to do the instructional design, and we're going to work with this graphic agency. And I've seen a lot more people, because a lot of e-learning companies are just churning out the same kind of stuff. And this is where the LX Collective's, we're quite unusual, where we are focusing on a bigger picture here.
I mean, what I find interesting about Mark's question is he asked something about how the ID role is separate from the UX and graphic design role, which is something that I've been like reflecting and then thinking also in the past like couple of weeks or even maybe a few months, like coming from the, you know, like doing graphic design and then now doing like e-learning, is like, it's interesting that I see parallel between, I find that instructional design is very similar to UX. And then the way I look at it, the e-learning design is like a UI role. And it's almost like these two are interconnected. And then because UX is typically the bigger umbrella of the whole process, and then user interface is like the small part of the implementing part. So I think that where my question is like, where does the ID role separate from a UX or graphic design role? Like, I don't know, because I think I'm doing both. It's almost like, should there be a separation? Like, I'm kind of looking at instruction design as like the big umbrella too, and then designing as a part of it. So I feel like I'm sure that a lot of people out there like disagree, but I feel like it's almost like a how to say it? It's a not together role. I don't think it's the proper term, but like I can see the ID like instructional design role like involves these two things.
Yeah,
I don't see it. I don't know. For me, it's a bit hard to see it separately.
Yeah, it's really interesting because there are people who work in just an ID role, and that's great and that's fantastic. I always felt like because I had a knowledge of different ways to format content and also the authoring tools, what they can do and how you can display content, for example, how you can have menus work and how you can, add, whether it's gamification functionality or, if you wanted to have some kind of, like a games function that says, yes, you understand it, or no, you don't understand it. By me actually having an understanding of these things, it really helped me when I just was an instructional designer, because I have had a role where I could develop, but I didn't. I just did the ID. It meant that I could go to the graphic designer or the digital designer and just say, listen, these are my ideas. I want you to work your magic on making that work. So even just having an understanding of it. So that's why I don't think there should be a separation. I agree with Charlene that at least having a good understanding of how things should be formatted, really, it's whether you're doing it alone or you're working with someone, you should really be working so closely together that it's both of your concept bringing it to life. This has now made me really like, I'm getting hot.
Yeah, I can see I have all these Asian flags.
No, let me just turn my light off. Hang on. You can see.
That's why I turned my lights off, so you guys can't see my flush going. I'm kidding. I'm drinking responsibly.
I agree, and I think it's more. It would actually kind of be neglectful of us to not latch onto those expert industries. And sure, we might not be, experts in all of them, but I think it's neglectful of us to ignore what is an art in itself. So I think if we didn't, then we would be poor learning designers. That's my perspective. And that's coming from someone whose strength lies in the first phase, which is when Cath was saying I've done ID only. So the design element and the storyboarding, that's where my strength lies. But I think it would make me a poor learning designer if I wasn't familiar with all the other concepts.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So Cass was saying that he gets his inspiration from stock photo sites, eLearning Heroes, which we all love as well, eLearning Heroes community and other learning designer sites. Razor asked about Lottie's. We're going to come back to Lottie's in a minute, Razor, because that's a whole other conversation. Mark asked another question here. Are we Addy or Sam aligned? So I'm just going to say I'm Addy aligned in the majority of my courses.
I think I'm leaning towards Addy as well.
Yeah.
Quite in line to like design thinking, human-centered design process.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a rip-off of Addy. I kind of mixed it up.
It's true.
True Addy, but it's Addy at its core, but not true Addy in that sense. I try and throw in, more the design thinking. I don't know, methodologies.
Yeah, I agree with Emma. I actually mix and cherry pick. I use that word quite a bit, but just mix stuff and then morph my own weird way of working. I don't know. It just depends, like what purpose you're trying to, focus on. So,
And it depends on the approach and the timelines and all things like that, because sometimes you try. So yeah, I would love to be able to go down a design thinking approach with every one of our clients. It just doesn't happen, So sometimes it's making those iterations at different stages. So, I mean, Sam is just a different iteration of Addie. I'm probably going to get my head bitten off for this, but I feel like Addie was the original one, and then there's all these other ones that have come out afterwards, and it's really just working out what the project is and what's going to be the best outcome. So, but I'm certainly more, for the majority of my clients, they're a form of Addie. But because of the way that I work, they're still, because I do mock-ups so early, it's a bit weird because it's not really analyze, design, develop. I'm somewhat developing a little bit before and making those refinements. So the development doesn't change, So it's a bit,
That's okay. It's still a D. It's still D's. You just switched it around. No one would know.
And Mother Steer is saying, I agree. Definitely at a crossroads with the roles getting blurred, guessing because of shared skills between the roles. Yeah. So it's certainly a very interesting, conversation. But it's good. I believe if you can't do it, at least get some understanding. Look at what other people are doing so that you can make references. And this user, it just says LinkedIn user, much like a mood board, so it's good to be able to use those examples like Amanda's done. If you're an instructional designer and you're not doing any dev work, to at least be able to go onto these sites and go, that looked nice, or I really like that look and feel, and to be able to go to the digital designer you're working with and say, these are the things that are inspiring me, and you can just do a mood board and kind of show them that way.
I think it helps with the client on storyboards as well, to have a visual of the design that you're trying to over explain a design when you could just quite easily put a little mock-up together. I think it really helps them be like, oh, that's what you mean, because we use so much language that they're not familiar with. So if they're reading the storyboard, how are they supposed to sign off and if they can't visualize it? So I really do think it's helpful.
Now I want to know what's happening in Troy's room right now, because I'm very humorous.
My cat is jumping at the door.
Go and let him in. Go and let him in.
Precious. He's got me whipped. I answered his command.
That's it.
Oh, too funny. I can see it.
Oh.
What's his name again?
Good name.
Oh,
He's not Haley.
oh no, it just dropped off.
Yeah.
Mark said that Troy is being very quiet. He is. It's nearly Troy's bedtime, because Troy is an early riser. I'm just joking. Troy, we value you so much. So what is your thoughts on this? How long have you been doing? Have you been doing more dev work, or have you always been doing, tell us about your journey?
Yeah, so my journey has been more dev work. So the development of experiences. So generally in the structure that I've worked in, I've had somebody who's been the instructional designer and have been able to just pass over the content, and then I've kind of, whipped it together and off we go. However, that is changing, and I'm going more into the end-to-end process. So, the instructional design phase, the analyzing phase, and doing it all. I would say that I probably follow an ADDIE model probably maybe 70% of the time, but it really does depend on the individual project I'm working on. I'm probably a bit like you, Cath, where I probably switch the design and development around a bit. I sometimes like to do a little bit of dev work ahead of time just to try to build out what it could potentially look like. I'm a big fan of show, not tell. So if I can try to put something together that the client or internal or external can kind of touch and feel to understand the journey and the through line of the course. So I probably do a bit too much dev work sometimes ahead of time, and I do get caught up on that, and sometimes it's wasted time, but it's a good experience at least to try to work out really what the client visually is thinking of. And I just find personally it helps me be able to communicate that visual concept that I've got in my head.
Yeah. When do you think you started really focusing on UX? Because I think it was probably 2016 that I probably really started understanding the term more. I remember someone left the business that I worked for. I went to General Assembly. She was a digital designer. She went to General Assembly. She became a UX designer. And I really didn't know the term before then. It was at that point that I started looking into it. And we've had this conversation. I think nearly all of us have had this conversation right now about how L&D is just so interesting that someone can, without, and this is just my opinion, guys, tell me, just ignore me if you don't agree with me, but I feel like in L&D, we go in there and we try and put a lot of the processes in place like a UX designer, personas, and we're trying to do a more human-centered design approach and use things like design thinking. But L&D, for some reason, are just so old-fashioned. They're just, oh no, you're just going to do this. And we haven't got a lot of money for it, right? But they'll pay a fortune for a UX designer to come in and go through the whole process. And they can't see that a lot of the things are actually so similar.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Emma, I know you've got your own opinion on this.
I couldn't agree more. Maybe I'm just going to start calling myself a UX designer, and all of the outcomes are going to be learning. So that I can get this credibility up front as this legit career pathway, legitimate job title, I guess. I just feel like the credibility part of it, I think, is what I'm hanging on to. I think we bring so much more than that as well. So I just don't know why we're not classed as a credible industry just yet. Maybe after lockdown it'll come. I don't know, but yeah, I could not agree more.
I think that's interesting also, that because I think we chat earlier about Social Dilemma, the documentary on Netflix, on how the product designers, they use like this behavioral science to attract users, and I was like, after watching that, and like just keep thinking again about in how can we engage learners with probably the same approach or like methodologies. And I think it is also interesting what you guys talk about, Cath and Emma, I think is because it's more difficult to measure behavioral change in learning. Like, you don't see the money like immediately, and then and with product design, just because it's all connected to the ROI and then the profit that comes with it. And I think that's when they're like, oh yeah, okay, like kind of.
But I'd argue that it takes the same amount of time to see a change as implementing a new website or implementing a,
But people don't want to measure it. That's the problem, is they don't want to measure. We've spoken about this before, and I think we're kind of going down a bit of a rabbit warren here, but evaluating learning just is almost non-existent. People don't want to know. They just want a Band-Aid fix and that's it, And so I think the true ROI, how do we know if nobody will evaluate? So I think so many other topics we could talk about right now.
Yeah. But UX certainly, since learning about the term, and started to really do more research into it. I did this e-learning hangout probably about 2 months ago, and Emma was there, and a girl turned up, and she'd never been to the hangout before, and she said, if you could do, let's all tell the cat off. If we could do, she said, if you could do anything different in your industry, in your life, in your professional development, what would you do? And I said, I would have quit and have become a UX designer at that same time. Really interesting. I find it fascinating. And I don't know if it's because L&D is a Mark's agree. And, he says, I agree, behavioral change should be the focus, not just knowledge acquisition. And, we say, this is what we're trying to achieve. And no matter how many times you sit with a client, Mark, and you go, one question I always ask, how are we going to measure the success of this program? And they go, if everybody does it. And you just go, no, you don't understand why you even implementing this, So it's very, very interesting. But yeah, I wish, kind of wish, 5 years ago, I just gone, now just become a UX designer and just.
Well, you can. You still can, no?
Yeah.
It's really hitting retirement age.
Pardon?
So you're nearly hitting retirement age,
Yeah. I feel like I'm near retirement age. But I think that's
Cath, you look like 25, okay? No way near.
Let me tell
retire.
You. I'm out. I just feel like it's doing things like this that we can make a difference, having conversations like this, getting people to, really have a think about, about these things. Amanda, you have to go.
I'm so sorry. I think my partner dropped the TV off the wall mount and he's swearing in the background. So
oh dear. Well, we'll I think that we'll wrap this up. Okay. It's been a great conversation. Guys, leave your comments. We're going to do this every 2 weeks unless we can't do it and we change things around. But we're going to try and keep this conversation going. We are trying to.
Before we go, can I share an inspiration?
Yeah, Amanda, if you want to go, we'll continue without you, my friend.
I'm so sorry, guys. Lots of love.
That's all right.
Wonderful night. I'll catch you soon.
Bye, Amanda.
See you, crew. Bye.
Bye. I just thought because it's really cool. I don't know if you guys know awards.com.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, okay, can you see it? Okay.
Yeah, we got it.
So it's also like something that I just encountered recently, and like if I go to awards.com and I kind of go on games or entertainment, and then they have all this like interactive stuff, which I think you could draw inspiration from. Like, so for example, I opened several here. Like, I mean, this one is a bit trippy, I think. But like, as you can see, it's like with the, okay. I don't know if you can hear the sound, maybe not.
No.
I just turn off that. But like, even like just the, because, like the click, the button, like the animation, this is the first time I'm seeing this actually. But just kind of like looking at this stuff, I think it's a big inspiration for doing stuff in storyline. Like, for example, the other one is this one. So I've seen this one before too.
Cool.
And then and like a gamified tutorial for kids to stay cautious during COVID. And then like you pick a character, which, you know, like that's what we do a lot, I think, in storyline.
We do. Yeah.
And choose your pet, and then I'm ready. And then you can just kind of navigate, click on the objects, pick on teddy bear. Okay. All right.
It's cool.
And then, yeah, okay, I'll just go on to the next one because you're wrapping up. But I just like, even like this one.
No, it's all good.
Like,
this is great.
Characters like this, I think it's really cool as well. Like I haven't seen this too before.
It's really cool. Troy and I have been sending a lot of like 3D characters and animations and stuff lately. I think they're phenomenal.
Yeah,
They really are cool.
Do you guys also do 3D stuff?
No, I haven't. No. That's Troy's next challenge.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the dream, right? You know, it's like VR. I was talking for years about doing stuff in VR, and God, that sounded like a broken record in the work that I you know, where I was, and you know, we could do this, we could do that, and there was people who knew Unity and different tools, and I think there's, you know, I'm a believer that we can do things ourselves. We can do things for professional development, and we should be trying and pushing the boundaries, just like you're doing with your tutorials at the moment, Troy, and all of us are doing. We're doing little things ourselves. It's not impossible, and I actually think they're great solutions. But yeah, 3D, I have downloaded Blender. I've taken courses. I just haven't gotten deep into there. So let's have a look at this Doc Martens example. This looks cool.
I know, this looks cool.
Just one thing that I shared on my LinkedIn recently was just like a coin, you know, if you were doing gamification, and just animating the coin spinning just gave it that little bit of extra pizzazz, and I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Title, question. It looks like a template here.
Yeah, cool.
I love awards. I jump on that like that.
Yeah,
all the time. You know, I will jump on there for, I don't know, there was a project I made for Qantas about different cabin types on the aircraft, and I really wanted to try to create a sense of motion and almost a parallax effect, which in storyline is, you know, quite difficult to create. But I got that inspiration from a bunch of sites that I found on awards. So
yeah, I think it's interesting because I find it's a bit hard to find amazing storyline inspiration. Like you need to dig into layers of Google, and then I think the easiest is just looking at website. It's the closest. This one's quite cool too.
And a lot of these, you know, whether they're website builders or Unity's a whole nother level, but a lot of these things, the functionality is very similar, where you've got some kind of true or false, you know, these variables, you know, and when you actually start thinking about concepts and you think about storyline, I always say that you can do pretty much anything in storyline if you've got access to the right code and things like that. I've seen really amazing products, like even like Learning Pool. They have what they call a games engine. So they've advanced their storyline products so much that it's just out of this world, you know, their game stuff. Yeah, so I think it's, you know, the only thing that gets me down a little bit, and maybe this is unfair of me to say, but I think some of the e-learning heroes stuff isn't very polished, you know, and that's not what it's about. You know, these are people learning the tool and sharing stuff. But I think it gives a lot of people a bad impression of the tool. So when we were going to use it at a place that I worked, the comment was, oh no, it's really bad. And I said, no, you have to understand that it's like a blank piece of paper. If I draw on it, my drawing's pretty shit, right? But if you've got you know, if you've got someone who's great at design, it's as good as your skills are, you know. You can do so.
I always say,
would you give to those people who are starting out then, Cath? Like, I know you say draw inspiration from all these places, but these are, you know, pretty top notch, which can be quite confronting. And I'm one of those people, you know, I find it quite confronting having a look at these stuff that you guys have shown today. I'm like, oh, whoa, that's pretty hectic. I wouldn't even know where to start. So like where's a simple place to start, I guess, with simple but clean, crisp designs that you would recommend people go to?
So I would say even investing in buying some stock imagery that you can, you know, learn Illustrator, learn enough that you can break down the assets off, you know, an EPS or an AI file, you know, something that you can put into Illustrator, or even what's the other free one other than Illustrator? What's it called?
Gravit Designer.
Yeah, something, you know, even you find another tool that's free if you don't want to do Illustrator, and learn how to ungroup things, right? So that you can put so you can take a background image and you can have the person, whether it's a fire truck and you want to have that fire truck move onto the page. I think if you can get better assets, and you can find them on iStock, even free pick, man, like go on to free pick, download something. And that's what we're doing. Like if you look at Shirlene's stuff, if you look at my stuff, Troy's stuff, he's using stock imagery. He's not, you know, it's not groundbreaking stuff. You can find it from anywhere, you know. You know, guys, it looks great though. I'm not knocking it. I think that we do a pretty good job, but it's actually finding great imagery. And I think sometimes people are I don't know, scared to spend a bit of money. I mean, I feel like, you know, you can get a trial for nothing for some of these and download them and then just cancel the trial, you know, just because you have to put a credit card in to get something for 7 days. Just have a play and try and use good imagery. So looking at things like this that inspire us, see that little crocodile and that little cat with the Gucci sign, you know.
Yeah.
If you like that kind of style, just go and look and find something that's cool. You know, if you love cats, I love cats, right? I've got freaking 4 of them. You know, do a little course on whiskers, you know, the cat food, you know, or do it on, you know, how to teach your cat to use the litter box. I don't know. Just try and think of something that's interesting, and then just find some really great imagery. I think just people are making monstrosities, and they're also a great idea is a magpie. I agree. Get the base tools and expand from there. Is a magpie like a unicorn?
I think
They like shiny things.
Yeah.
Troy,
Absolutely.
I think what I would say is also, I noticed in myself, I used to hold myself back because of my understanding of a tool. So it's great that we have a fundamental understanding of what a tool can and can't do. But I felt a couple of years ago, I used that as a bit of an excuse for getting creative and trying different things. And I kind of, came up with a saying for myself that is, don't blame the tool, and try to get, think outside the box. So have an understanding of what the tool can and can't do, but don't stop yourself there, because I feel once you blame the tool or start saying, oh, Storyline can't do that, or Storyline can only do this, we're limiting the creativity and the opportunity that we have to create something really unique.
So I'm just going to share something dead quick, right? Just going to share this.
Whilst you're sharing your screen, that thing that you liked the other day on LinkedIn, Troy, that was really cool. And it's similar to what you were doing with the full page image or full page GIF, or a bit of a video in the background. I wish I knew what the person was who the person was that shared it, but that just made it not even look like Storyline, and it was just really clean but fairly simple concept.
Yeah. And I think for me, that's kind of, my passion. Like, it's personal passion, kind of a personal thing I strive for. That, we've all seen those courses that just really kind of look like a PowerPoint. They're just a PowerPoint imported into Storyline, popped on the internet. That's not engaging for anybody. I would never sit there and do that course. I'm going to be honest and say I'll be that person that's going to sit there and click next, and be gone. So I always try to get in that mindset of creating a full experience, but also try to push Storyline so that it doesn't look like Storyline as much as possible.
Yeah. And that's the goal, right? If we can have something that makes people go, oh, that's not how I remember Storyline looking, So I'm just going to put a quick example out there, and Mark has confirmed a Magpie is not a unicorn. They source things from many places, right? So yeah, we're magpies. To see this beach scene, this is just one example, right? I could make a whole interaction with this one page, right? If you think about it, you can have the sunrise, you can have the birds flying, right? You can do so much with this. Have the clouds floating at different, make it look a bit parallax, or something like that. Have the beach, have some sound effects. Have the water just moving so subtly, have the flags kind of waving. And I'm just trying to give an example of different things that people can do. Have the ball maybe roll in here, or if you hover over that little spade, have it dig into the sand. I'm just trying to show how one little image, if you can understand how to take that into Illustrator and break that down, how you can work absolute magic with just one picture, and how you'll learn so much. So when you actually do have content, this is more of an experience, if you would talk, if this was a course on Benlich Bay in Anglesey, right? And how it's the #1 destination in Anglesey in Wales. And I'm laughing because Emma's from Wales, right? Honestly, what are you saying? Benlich Bay. So, you could do anything with this, have them click on the bucket and have things pop up. I'm just trying to say that I think that this looks very, very nice. It looks very simple. It's just people finding better imagery and breaking it down. I think a lot of people do a lot of stuff with hotspots instead of actually, removing these items and animating them. So, for example, natively putting the shadow under this ball. You can make the shadow the same color in Storyline. So these are the little things that I do. Maybe it's a bad example, but that's just the way that I'd say you can get started, Emma, by just, you know, if you had someone asking for advice on, you know, what they can do, that's what I'd say. Learn how to use a couple of tools so that you can work, you know, learn more stuff. Anyway, I'm starting to waffle, which means we should wrap this bad boy up. What do you think, guys?
Good idea.
Troy sent me the link for what I was trying to explain earlier, and so I'll send it to you, Cath, to put in the the footnote.
Cool. We've shown loads of examples though, and you know, I think for those that have tuned in, you know, it's hopefully added a bit of value. We'll think about what to talk about next time. The thing is, we always kind of go back to talking about the same thing, which is this industry can be a little bit frustrating, but it's also fantastic, you know. So whether we get a bit negative, we all do love the industry, and you know, anyway.
And I think it's, you know, although the frustrations, it's exciting that we get to do all different things, right? Not many people can say that in their job.
No, absolutely not. And I love the variation of projects and things that come my way, and yeah, could be so much worse, you know.
And I think the opportunity to kind of be creative and try to push some boundaries, I think that's pretty unique.
Yeah. And a lot of it is you bettering yourself as well. Like I talked to Emma yesterday about drones, right? And she said, "Oh, what would you hire someone?" I said, "No, I have a drone." Right? Of course I do, she said, you know, she's mocking me. But the thing is, I think for us to not be scared to play with new tools and technology, stuff doesn't need to, you know, there's little investments, but, you know, even go and hire something, hire it for the day. I hired a 360 camera from a place in Melbourne for $80. And I did a full walkthrough of a shop, and then I took it back. You know, you don't have to buy everything, and then you charge the client for it. So you don't need to have equipment. I think YouTube's the best thing ever. You can learn anything on YouTube.
Yeah, true that.
Okay, guys, we will wrap this up. Mark's enjoyed it. We're glad you've been here, Mark. And thank you very much, Mudasir. Thank you to Casper, Razor, John, and Tom. And there's been others as well, but that's all good. Right, guys, we'll sign off. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you, guys.
And for those of you who are starting work, poor you, we are finishing up. We are ending our day, okay? And we will see you in a couple of weeks with the LX Collective. Yeah. All right, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
We'll sign off. Bye.